Book of Soyga, the Grimoire angels refuse to explain to John Dee. An audiobook. Introduction. I have watched centuries turn like pages in a great and silent book. I was there when the ink was still wet on parchments that promised power over the unseen world, and I have seen the brightest minds of their age burn themselves out like candles against the dark, trying to read their meaning. The human hunger for hidden knowledge is a constant flame, a beautiful and dangerous thing that draws you ever upward, even as it threatens to consume you entirely. It is a hunger I know well, for I have witnessed it in the eyes of your greatest seekers and your most desperate fools. One such seeker was a man named John Dee, a soul torn between the brilliant daylight of mathematics and the alluring twilight of the arcane. He walked the halls of queens and mapped the pathways of the stars, yet his heart yearned for a key to a deeper kingdom, a lexicon to decode the very language of creation. He believed with the fervent passion of a scholar saint that the universe was a text written by the hand of God, and that with the right cipher he could read its divine footnotes. His ambition was a cathedral built to reach the heavens. It was within his own vast library, a forest of leather and wisdom, that he found a volume that seemed to be the answer to his lifelong quest. It was known as the Aldaraya, but more commonly, the Book of Soyga. To his eyes, it was a thing of beauty and profound frustration, filled with celestial charts and invocations, but centered on 36 tables of letters, vast and grains of absolute mystery. These were not words, but a torrent of symbols, a chaotic waterfall of characters that defied all his learned attempts to find their pattern, their source, their reason for being. He possessed the book, but he could not read it. It was a door standing open before him, but one whose threshold he could not cross. And so, in his desperation, he turned to the one method he believed could not fail. He asked the architects of the divine plan themselves. Through his scryer, Edward Kelly, he conversed with the angels, beings of pure intellect who had guided him before. He laid the book before them, this Soyga, and with a trembling heart he asked for their explanation. And for the first and only time they refused. Their silence was not mere quiet. It was an active, resonant negation, a void that swallowed his questions whole. They called it the Book of the Secrets of God, and told him that only the archangel Michael could unlock it, but Michael would not come. This refusal echoes through history, a single sharp note of discord in the symphony of Dee's life. Why? What is it about this specific book, these 36 tables, that was deemed too dangerous, too sacred, or too complex for even the Queen's own magician? The answer lies not in a simple translation, but in understanding the nature of the lock itself. The angels did not refuse him out of spite, but because Dee was asking the wrong question. He sought a simple translation, a dictionary, when he should have been seeking a transformation of his own understanding. The Soyga was not a puzzle to be solved by the mind alone. It was a mirror to be faced with the soul. This is not merely a historical curiosity, a dusty artifact for academics to debate. The enigma of the Soyga is a living question, a metaphysical challenge that is as relevant to you now as it was to Dee in his library. In a world saturated with information but starved for wisdom, The Soyga represents a different kind of knowledge, one that cannot be Googled, one that must be earned, integrated, and ultimately lived. It asks of you the same thing it asked of John Dee. Are you content to simply know the names of things, or do you dare to understand the forces that bind them together? Your journey to a higher dimension does not begin with finding answers, but with learning how to ask better questions. The Soyga is your first and most profound lesson. Core themes and concepts. The 36 tables are not a code in the way you moderns understand the word, a simple substitution of one letter for another. They are something far more profound and alive. Think of them not as a locked chest, but as the genetic blueprint for a forest. You can map every strand, note every sequence, yet you will never capture the scent of the pine on the wind or the feeling of the moss under the foot. The tables are a mathematical seed, a set of instructions for generating a living system of language, and their product is a vocabulary of power that resonates with the architecture of the unseen world. They are less a message and more an organism, one that grows and changes in the mind of the beholder. To encounter them is to be presented with a river, and you cannot step into the same river twice, for the water has flown on, and you yourself have been changed by the previous step. This living nature is what defies all conventional decryption. A modern computer, for all its brute force power, could perhaps generate endless permutations of the tables, but it could never discern which permutation held meaning, for meaning is not a static output, but a relationship between the symbol and the soul. The tables are a kind of spiritual catalyst. They do not react until they are immersed in the specific solution of a human consciousness, and even then, the reaction is unique to the individual. One person might see patterns of stellar motion, another might hear a forgotten musical scale, and a third might feel a shift in the very temperature of the room. All are correct, for the Soyga speaks the native language of the subconscious, which is the language of direct experience, not of translated words. John Dee saw this complexity, but he was trapped by his own brilliance. He sought a single, elegant key, a philosopher's stone for the text, because his world was built on the logic of Euclid and the precision of the astrolabe. He could not yet grasp that the Soyga operates on a logic of fluidity and relationship, a grammar where meaning shifts based on position, intention, and the very energy of the reader. It is a language not of nouns, but of verbs. It does not name things. It describes the process of their becoming and their influence upon the whole. This is why the angels remain silent. To give him a simple key would have been a lie, for there is no key, only a state of being that allows one to swim in its currents. They were not withholding a secret. They were waiting for him to transform into a being for whom the secret would be self-evident, a natural law of his own perception. His failure is a timeless lesson. We all seek the shortcut, the definitive answer that will spare us the long and arduous journey of inner transformation. We want a map to the treasure without having to cross the treacherous swamps and scale the daunting mountains that the map itself represents. The Soyga exposes this desire for the illusion it is. The journey is the destination, the process of straining to understand, of sitting with the incomprehensible, of allowing your mind to be broken open by a mystery too vast for it to comprehend. That is the initiation. The tables are the teachers,
and their first lesson is the shattering of your reliance on being taught in the way you have come to expect. They force you to learn a new way of learning. Consider the central mystery. Why 36? This is not an arbitrary number. In the cosmology that Soyga emerges from, the number 36 represents the entirety of the deconic world, the 36 astral domains or governors that shape the substance of reality beneath the planetary spheres. Each table is a gateway to one of these foundational forces, a complex cipher that describes its nature, its allies, its adversaries, and its specific role in the grand tapestry.
To possess these tables is to hold a circuit diagram of the cosmos itself, but to use them without understanding is like touching a live wire to your soul. The power is real, and the potential for a short circuit is catastrophic. This is not a metaphor, it is a warning of spiritual physics. To call upon a force of radical change without the inner stability to contain it is to risk a psychic explosion. Think of these 36 forces as the primary colors of creation. Just as a painter can mix a near infinite spectrum from a few foundational pigments, the cosmos mixes the experience of reality from these 36 qualities of being. One decan may govern the principle of swift communication, another the slow decay of matter, a third the sudden flash of inspiration, a fourth the patient nurturing of growth. Your life, in every moment, is a complex painting composed of these interacting energies. The Soyga provides the formula for each pure color, allowing the adept to understand the composition of their reality and eventually to become the painter, to consciously mix and apply these energies with intention rather than being a passive canvas upon which they are splashed. This is the first and greatest lesson Soyga offers to the modern seeker. The universe is not a collection of separate inert objects, but a single, dynamic, and intelligent organism. The tables are a map of its nervous system. Your science is only now beginning to catch up, with physics speaking of quantum entanglement and ecology illustrating the deep interconnectedness of all life. The Soyga presented this truth not as a theory, but as a practical, magical tool. To work with it is not to cast a spell upon the world, but to consciously participate in a conversation with the world, to align your own small vibration with the grand chords of existence. When you understand this, you realize that magic is not about violating natural law, but about participating in it at a more conscious and foundational level. This interconnectedness is the reason for the book's inherent danger and its profound power. You cannot manipulate one thread of the tapestry without tugging on all the others. A ritual focused on a decan of personal power will inevitably stir forces in your relationships, your health, and your mental state, for these are all woven from the same cloth. The unprepared practitioner seeking wealth might find it but lose their health in the process, or gain influence but suffer profound loneliness. The Soyga does not grant wishes, it fulfills patterns of energy. You must be conscious of the entire pattern you are weaving, not just the single shiny thread you think you desire. The refusal of the angels was therefore an act of profound mercy. Dee wanted a tool. They knew he needed a transformation. He sought to command the forces of the decans, but he had not yet mastered the corresponding forces within his own being. The Soyga demands integrity, for to invoke a celestial power without first reconciling it within your own psyche is to invite chaos. It is the ultimate mirror. Before you can ask the universe to reveal its secrets, you must be prepared for the secrets it will reveal about you. This is the practical, spiritual core of the work. It is not about acquiring power, but about undertaking the alchemy of the self required to wield that power without being consumed by it. The book is not dangerous because of its content, but because of the responsibility that content demands. This path of integration is the true work, and it is a lifelong journey. It requires brutal self-honesty. You must be willing to face the shadowy, chaotic decans within your own soul as courageously as you would approach the luminous, benevolent ones. The force of martial aggression exists within you, just as surely as the force of compassionate healing. The Soyga teaches that to deny one is to make it a rogue element in your psyche, a landmine that will inevitably be triggered when you attempt to work with its celestial counterpart. Mastery comes not from suppression, but from understanding, integrating, and directing these inner forces with the same conscious intent you would use to navigate the outer cosmos. The microcosm and the macrocosm are one. To know the 36 tables is ultimately to know the 36 facets of your own complete and perfected soul. Deeper symbolic narratives. I have watched humanity since its first dawning, and I tell you this: your kind does not live by facts alone, but by the stories you tell beneath them. These are the subterranean rivers that feed the wells of your consciousness, the grand myths that give shape to the chaos of existence. The Soyga is one such foundational story, a narrative written not in prose but in the language of creation itself, a syntax of light and shadow that predates your alphabets. Its 36 tables are not mere grids, they are the 36 pillars of a celestial cathedral, each one upholding a segment of the vault of heaven, and between them the stained glass windows of cosmic law filter the pure white light of the source into the spectrum of manifested reality. To the ancients who understood, these were not mathematical curiosities. They were the resonant names of the luminaries, the decans, the very intelligences that spin fate and substance on their looms. They are the reason the stars are not random points of light, but a structured grammar of influence, a story written in fire across the night sky, waiting for eyes that know how to read. This celestial story finds its echo in the most intimate narratives of the human soul. Every culture whispers a version of the great myth of the fall, a memory of a golden age from which you have tumbled. See this not as a single historical event of moral failure, but as a perpetual psychological descent into duality, into the fundamental separation of self from world, observer from observed. This was the moment your consciousness contracted, when you bit into the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, and in that very act lost the direct knowledge of unity. Language itself fell with you. It ceased to be a creative act, a vibration that could shape reality, and became a mere tool for labeling a world that now seemed stubbornly outside of yourself. You began to name things in order to possess them, or to defend yourself against them, and in doing so, you forgot how to speak with them. The Soyga represents a precious, dangerous memory of a time before that schism. It is a fossil of the original unified language, the logos, in which to speak a thing was to call its essence into being. This is why the angels refused Dee. He approached this unified language from the perspective of the fallen mind, the mind that analyzes, dissects, and seeks to own. He stood outside the system, key in hand, trying to break in.
like a thief attempting to pick the lock on a door that only opens from the inside. The Soyga can only be understood from within by the consciousness that has first remembered its own inherent connection to the whole. The book does not yield its secrets to a conqueror, only to a prodigal child returning home. This is the deeper, truer narrative that the book guards with its cryptic tables, the path of return. It is not a simple map for a physical journey, but a cartography of the soul's ascent back through the layers of manifestation, back through the very veils of perception that create the illusion of separation, all the way back to the luminous source. This is the hero's journey inverted. It is not about going out into the world to find a treasure, but about turning inward to remember that you yourself are the treasure you seek. Each of the 36 tables represents a stage on this journey home, a specific grade of initiation that corresponds to a layer of your own being that must be reconciled and integrated. To engage with these tables is to undertake a profound inner alchemy. Consider the table of a martial deacon. The uninitiated might see a formula for victory in battle, or a charm to defeat enemies. But this is the perspective of the fall, the desire to command an external force. The true work is to turn that gaze inward. To work with this table is to be compelled to confront the raw, aggressive, and chaotic force of Mars within your own psyche. Your repressed angers, your will to power, your capacity for destruction. You must sit in the silent chamber of your soul with this raging warrior, not to slay it, but to understand its origin, its fears, and its rightful place. You must become the general of your own inner conflicts, learning to direct this potent energy with precision and purpose, before you can even glance upon that Martian pillar of the cosmos without being shattered by its unmediated reflection. This process repeats for each table, each a different face of the divine. A Venusian table will lead you into the gardens of your own heart, asking you to reconcile your capacity for love with your potential for possessive attachment. A Saturnine table will guide you into the crypts of your being, where your fears of limitation and mortality reside, asking you to transform leaden dread into the gold of disciplined structure and wisdom. This is not a passive study. It is an active, often painful excavation of the self. The Soyga is the spade that turns the soil of your soul, unearthing buried shadows and forgotten light. This is why the figure of John Dee is so tragically perfect, a character in a play written by the cosmos itself. He is the archetype of the modern seeker, poised at the precipice between two entire worlds. He had one foot in the unifying, symbolic world of the ancients, where every herb and star was a signature of God, and the other in the emerging world of empirical science, of separation, of a cold universe of objects to be measured and controlled. His failure with the Soyga was a harbinger of the age to come, an age where knowledge would be fractured from wisdom, and power would be sought without the balancing weight of responsibility. He reached for the tools of the new world to unlock the secrets of the old, and found only a void of silence. His story is your story. The longing he felt, that gnawing sense that there is a more profound reality just beyond the veil of the familiar, is the same spiritual ache that drives you to seek meaning beyond the material grind. He is your mirror, showing you both the promise and the peril of the path. The Soyga, therefore, is more than a grimoire. It is a cosmological drama in which you are the central character,
and the 36 tables are both your supporting cast and the settings for each act. Its pages do not contain information. They contain a process, a script for a play that must be lived, not merely read. To read it is to be read by it. As your eyes trace the seemingly random letters, the book is also tracing the patterns of your neural pathways, seeking the fissures in your logic, the unhealed wounds in your emotional body, the places where you are still trapped in the illusion of separation. To decipher its tables is to have your own inner contradictions, your own hidden biases, and your own unintegrated shadows deciphered and laid bare upon the altar of your awareness. This is the ultimate heroic journey it offers, not a quest for a golden fleece that lies in a distant land, but for the reclaimed wholeness of your own soul, which has been with you all along, waiting to be remembered. It is a path fraught with perils, for you must confront everything in yourself that you have spent a lifetime, perhaps lifetimes, building walls to forget. You must meet the face of your own darkness and the brilliance of your own light, and acknowledge both as your own. This is the loneliest battle, fought in the silent, sacred space of your own heart, with no audience but the angels and your own trembling, magnificent spirit. The Soyga is your map for this inner crusade, a guide that promises that every step taken inward is a step closer to the home you never truly left. Practical integration and real-world implications. You may wonder how these ancient tables and arcane symbols could possibly affect the mundane reality of your life, with its bills and its responsibilities, its traffic jams and its supermarket queues. I tell you, the connection is more direct than you can imagine, for the wall you perceive between the spiritual and the material is the grandest illusion of all. The same forces that govern the 36 deacons govern the 36 fundamental patterns of your own experience, the rhythms of your energy, the nature of your conflicts, the sudden openings of insight, and the slow, grinding periods of stagnation. Working with Soyga is not about escaping your life, but about learning to read its deeper currents and, in time, to navigate them with intention. It is the difference between being a leaf blown by the wind and being the sailor who understands the breeze, who can adjust the sails of their own spirit to find purpose and progress even in the calmest doldrums or the fiercest storm. This is the great secret the Soyga guards. Your daily life is the only true ritual chamber. The morning commute is a journey through a beacon of motion and transition. The tense meeting with your manager is an encounter with a saturnine force of structure and authority. The moment of unexpected kindness from a stranger is a brief, beautiful manifestation of a Venusian current. The Soyga does not ask you to abandon this world for a secluded temple. It provides the lexicon to understand the sacred text that is your own existence. When you begin to see your life through this lens, every moment becomes charged with meaning and potential for alchemy. The mundane is no longer mundane. It is the practice ground for mastery. Let me be profoundly practical. You will not and should not attempt to recreate the physical tables and chant their sequences from memory. That is a path for the rigorously prepared adept who has spent years, perhaps decades, purifying their vessel and strengthening their mind. For you, the integration begins not with external ritual, but with the core, living principle the book embodies, the unbreakable law of resonant integrity. This is not a suggestion. It is a law of spiritual physics as immutable as gravity. It simply means you cannot authentically attract
or safely engage with a force externally that you have not first made peace with internally. Your outer reality is a shadow cast by the shape of your inner being. Consider a man who seeks the Soyga's blessings for wealth, while secretly, in the hidden chambers of his heart, believing he is unworthy of it, that money is corrupt, or that financial success will alienate him from his family. He may recite the most powerful incantations, he may meticulously draw the tables associated with Jupiterian expansion, but he will not manifest abundance. Instead, he will only succeed in amplifying his own deep-seated sense of lack and conflict. The universe, in its perfect mirroring, will reflect this inner schism back to him as unexpected debts, lost opportunities, or financial windfalls that vanish as quickly as they come, proving his secret belief that he cannot hold on to wealth. The magic always, without fail, mirrors the soul. It reveals before it grants. Therefore, your first and most potent practice is one of meticulous, courageous, conscious alignment. This begins not with doing, but with observing. Become a cartographer of your own inner landscape. Start by watching the recurring themes in your life with detached curiosity, as if you are studying the weather patterns of your own soul. Do you face repeated, frustrating conflicts with authority figures, landlords, bosses, government bodies? Do not curse them. Thank them, for they are pointing you directly to the unintegrated Saturnian principles within you. Where are you being rigid, overly critical, or living in fear of limitation? Your outer world is showing you a picture of your own inner structures. Are you perpetually plagued by chaotic relationships and emotional drama? This is not bad luck. It is a flashing neon sign pointing to the watery, lunar realms of your own unchecked emotions and subconscious reactions. Where have you refused to take responsibility for your own emotional tides? Where are you allowing past hurts to dictate present reactions? The Soyga teaches that the cosmos is not a dictatorship you must petition from your knees, but a profoundly responsive ecosystem that answers the vibration you emit. Your inner state, your fears, your loves, your resentments, your acceptances, is your primary offering, your most powerful and constant invocation. Clean the temple of your own heart, and the gods will find it a fitting place to visit, not because you have summoned them, but because you have finally created a home that reflects their nature. This work of inner alignment has a tangible, undeniable impact on your reality, because it fundamentally changes the quality of your consciousness, which is the very instrument through which you perceive and co-create your world. It is like replacing a dusty, cracked lens with a pristine one. The world itself appears to change because your ability to interact with it has been transformed. When you consciously take responsibility for the Mars principle within you, your anger, your drive, your raw courage, you stop unconsciously projecting it onto the world as external antagonists. The man who cuts you off in traffic, the demanding boss, the political opponent you despise, they cease to be random persecutors and become invaluable mirrors, showing you the face of the unclaimed, unruly warrior within your own psyche. This is not passive acceptance or meek surrender. This is active sovereignty. It is the realization that your power lies not in controlling the external actors, but in mastering your internal reactions and understanding the role they play in your soul's curriculum. You begin to engage with the world from a place of chosen response, not blind habitual reaction. You can meet a Saturnine challenge with Saturnine discipline rather than Martian fury.
You can meet a venereal temptation with venereal appreciation without losing yourself in possessive attachment. This is real-world power. It is the power to remain calm in a crisis, to speak truth in the face of opposition, to attract resources not out of desperate need, but from a place of aligned and open receptivity. The ultimate breathtaking implication of all this is that spiritual ascent is not a flight from the world, but an infinitely deeper and more responsible engagement with it. A higher dimension is not a physical location you travel to after death. It is a frequency of perception you learn to generate and hold within yourself right here, right now, in the checkout line and the boardroom. It is the ability to see the sacred geometry within the chaos of a city street, to hear the divine conversation in the overlapping voices at a family dinner, to feel the 36 tables acting through the people you meet and the challenges you face each day. The Book of Soyga, in the end, is merely a training manual for perceiving the world as it truly is and always has been, a living, speaking, responsive emanation of a single conscious source. And you, yourself, in all your perfect imperfection, are a unique and essential word in its endless unfolding story. Your life is your contribution to the text. Make it a conscious one. Conclusion and transformational call. We have walked this path together, from the silent despair of a magician in his library to the vibrant living truth that his book was trying to express. We have navigated the core themes, delved into the symbolic narratives, and bridged it all into the practical reality of your daily life. Now we arrive at the final crossroads. The story of the Soyga is not a history lesson. It is a living prophecy about your own latent potential, a whisper from the past meant to awaken your future. John Dee's ultimate limitation was not a lack of intellect or passion, but the horizon of his perception, a boundary he could not see beyond. He stood at the shore of a vast ocean of consciousness, holding the thimble of his analytical mind, trying to devise a method to carry the entire sea within it. The angels did not deny him the water. They were waiting for him to become the vessel, to expand until his own being could contain the tides. This is the same critical choice that stands before you now, in every moment of your life. Will you remain on the shore, measuring the waves with the inadequate tools of separation? Or will you take the plunge and learn to swim in the boundless depths of your own true being? The transformational call of the Soyga is not to a specific action, but to a fundamental and irreversible shift in identity. It is an invitation to stop seeing yourself as a separate self, a fragile island of flesh and bone adrift in a cold and indifferent universe, and to begin knowing yourself as a conscious nexus of cosmic forces, a vital participant in a divine dialogue that has been ongoing since the first dawn. The 36 tables are a map, but you are the territory. All the power, all the mystery, all the sacred geometry you have sought in dusty grimoires and distant stars is already present and active within the intricate design of your own awareness, waiting only for your sincere recognition to awaken it from its slumber. This awakening is not an addition of something new, but a remembrance of something eternally ancient and inherently yours. This is the great work, the only work that truly matters, and it begins not with a grand dramatic ritual, but with the very next breath you take. Let this be your practice. With each inhale, draw in the conscious awareness that you are not separate. You are connected to the source of all things, a thread woven into the infinite tapestry. With each exhale, Release the deeply ingrained illusion of your separation, the petty grievances, the fears, and the limiting beliefs that constrict your vessel. As you move through your day, practice seeing the decanic forces playing out in your meetings, your conversations, your moments of quiet joy and sudden frustration. You are not a victim of these forces. You are their interpreter, their co-creator, the artist who gives them form and expression in this world. Your life, with all its triumphs and tribulations, is your most sacred text, and your conscious, loving attention is the light that illumines its hidden meaning. Do not seek to become John Dee, haunted and obsessed by a mystery he perceived as outside himself. His path was one of longing, and while noble, it was ultimately a reflection of the fragmented age being born. Instead, become the one who solves the mystery by realizing, in the very core of your being, that it was never outside to begin with. The Book of Soyga does not exist to be deciphered like a newspaper crossword. It exists to inspire in you the very state of consciousness from which it was originally written. That state of unity, of participatory knowing, of resonant integrity, is your forgotten birthright. It is the unclaimed dimension of your own soul, the higher reality you seek. Carry this knowing forward not as a concept, but as a lived experience. Let it be the lens through which you see your world and the compass that guides your choices. The angels are not withholding an explanation. They are patiently, lovingly awaiting your arrival at the understanding that needs no explanation, for it is the understanding that you, yourself, are the answer you have been seeking. The journey is over, and it is just beginning. You are the secret, and you are now finally revealed.
And so the final page turns, but the true reading has only just begun within you. The mystery of the Soyga does not end here. It simply passes from our voice to your consciousness, waiting for your own life to become its living text. If this journey into the unseen has resonated with the seeker in your soul, please help our channel grow and spread the message by liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications. Your engagement is more than support. It is a signal, a shared vow that the pursuit of true knowledge will never be extinguished. We walk this path together. Don't forget to drop a comment for our next video and tell us what hidden truth we should unveil next. Thank you for watching.